Showtown Hoops.
Children of all ages, act like you know.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls all over the world. Welcome to Chilltown Hoops. I'm your host, Jermaine. The youngsters call me OG. My friends call me J-Dub. Let's get to it. Well, what do we have here, ladies and gentlemen? What do we have here? We have some movement. We got action. And with us having action, we get to watch something that me and my man Tony Tone, who I'm on Fluent and Chill with Tony Tone every Tuesday night, 8 o'clock on the Chilltown Hoops Network. Come check us out. It's good stuff. Excuse me. It's good stuff. Come check us out. We have some really good basketball talks. With that being said, right? With that being said, we had a discussion a couple of nights ago about the incompetence of front offices in the Eastern Conference. The Eastern Conference, right? The Eastern Conference has damn good players. Like, all I hear about is how weak the Eastern Conference is, right? I hear why the Eastern Conference. I hear how the Eastern Conference sucks. The Eastern Conference isn't very good, right? I hear this all the time. The Eastern Conference is whack. So you guys know, I'm not sure that you guys are aware of this, but so you guys know, 2 of the last 4 league MVPs in the last 5 years. Just so you guys know, in the last 5 years, 3 guys have won the league MVP. 2 of them have been out of the Eastern Conference. The assist leader is in the Eastern Conference. Last 2 years, that's Tyrese Halliburton and James Harden. The NBA champ is in the Eastern Conference. That's 3 of the last 6 years. The most improved player is in the Eastern Conference. That's Tyrese Maxey. There's plenty of players in the Eastern Conference. Ballers. Plenty of them. The problem that we have in the Eastern Conference, and me and my man Tone had this conversation. It was a really good one. And Tone was the one who basically stuck on it, which I wholeheartedly agree with. It's the incompetence of front offices. And I just saw yet another example. I saw the situation with Monty Williams. We saw that, right? Saw the situation with Monty Williams. That wasn't an issue. That right there, I already know what that is, right? I already know what that is. So that's not something that I'm on the fence about. I already know what that is, right? I already know what that is. He made it clear that he didn't want the job. He took the job anyway, right? He took the job anyway, and it was solely for the bread. It was for the bread and for the bread only. He didn't want the job, but he took the job, and he did a terrible job because his heart wasn't in it. And instead, you begged him, gave him an offer he couldn't refuse. That's not Monty Williams' fault that you put $78 million on the table. That's not his fault. It is not Monty Williams' fault that you put $75 million on the table. He told you he didn't want the job. He said that. It's not like that's something that we didn't know was going on. No, he said that. He did not want the job. Yet you gave him an offer he couldn't refuse, and he took the job anyway. And it was a disaster. A complete and utter disaster. So with that being said, right? With that being said, that's just one example of the incompetence of the Eastern Conference. And then you move to what just happened earlier today. What happened earlier today was the Oklahoma City Thunder, the GM, Sam Presti, he calls up the Chicago Bulls, and unlike Rob Pelinka, who had Coach Dan Hurley in his building, I'm not getting off this phone until we have a deal. I'm not letting you off this phone until we have a deal. That's GMing right there. The Chicago Bulls, their infrastructure over the last 3 years, Lonzo Ball, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Vooch. That was their infrastructure. That's what it was supposed to be. Only Lonzo Ball broke down, threw a monkey wrench in everything that they were trying to do. And over the last 2 years, the Chicago Bulls team has been, at best, mid. At best, they've been mid. Meanwhile, Sam Presti, who, by the way, Sam Presti did not have to give up any draft picks to get Alex Caruso. So now we're talking about arguably the best on-ball defender in the league. There's some great on-ball defenders in the league, Jaden McDaniels, Bam Adebayo, but we're just talking strictly about on the perimeter. On the perimeter, on-ball defenders. I think Herb Jones is the best on-ball defender on the perimeter in the game. But Herb Jones, Drew Holiday, Jaden McDaniels, Derek White, Dylan Brooks. We got some great on-ball defenders in the game. Great on-ball defenders in the game. Now, with that being said, right, with that being said, Sam Presti, in the process of him doing that, he gets to keep his draft picks. Which was the number 12 draft pick, which I'm thinking to myself, well, if you have the number 12 pick and you don't have to give it up, how much of that is a plus for you? Well, think about the number 12 picks over the last couple of years. Last year's number 12 pick, that was Derek Lively. The year before that, it was Jalen Williams. The year before that, it was Josh Primo, who turned out to be a whack job. PJ Washington, Miles Bridges. These are the number 12 picks. Do I trust Sam Presti with the number 12 pick to get it right again? Yeah, I do. And I didn't have to give it up. And I got an incredible on-ball defender. So essentially what I did was I upgraded Lou Dort. Because he's better than Lou Dort. Now what he just did was he made Lou Dort expendable. Because I don't think Alex Caruso is a rotation guy. Even though Chicago played him as a rotation guy, I don't think he's a rotation guy. And on top of that, the Bulls, if they're smart, which I don't think that they are, the Bulls can now tear this whole thing down. Don't stop with Alex Caruso. DeMar DeRozan, even though I hate letting guys walk out the front door. I'm not saying that I dislike that. I hate letting guys walk out the front door. I did not like the fact that Danny Ainge let Kyrie Irving walk out the front door. I can appreciate the idea of addition by subtraction. I can dig that. Sure. However, a talent like Kyrie Irving, a guy like DeMar DeRozan, who still got some years left. I don't think he's got a lot left. I think he's probably got another 2 years left because DeMar DeRozan is ancient. But I still think he's got some years left. And you don't just let him walk out the front door. Not without compensation. You can't do that, man. No. But I don't think that you just stop with Alex Caruso. Your infrastructure was Lonzo Ball, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Vooch. Vooch's the only one I'm holding on to. I'm tearing this whole thing down. White. So if we're starting over, we're starting over with Giddey, with White. I'm gonna see if I can. I'm gonna see if I can get something for Zach LaVine because he's still in the contract. See if I can deal him. If I could get some draft picks. I'm tearing this whole thing down. The whole thing. I'm tearing all of it down. I'm holding on to Vooch though. I am. I'm gonna hold on to Vooch, and the reason why I'm gonna hold on to Vooch, because 6'10" stretch fours and stretch fives do not grow on trees. And I think Vooch got some years left. And no, Lauri Markkanens are not just walking around. No, they're not. So I'm going to hold on to Vooch. The rest of them dudes, I'm out. Kobe White, holding on to Vooch. After that, Pat Williams, by DeMar DeRozan. See you later. And this is just another example of the incompetence of the Eastern Conference. What did Sam Presti do with getting Alex Caruso? Well, one, he beefed up his defense with now having arguably the best perimeter defender, on-ball defender in the game, plus Lou Dort, because he's got more size. Because Alex Caruso, a bit of 6'6", a bit of it. There's nothing 6'2" or 6'3" about him. He a bit of 6'6". So now I got a 6'6" ball hawk. Meanwhile, the Milwaukee Bucks know for a fact that this is exactly what they need. And what do? They hand over Drew Holiday. They just handed him over. This is the incompetence that we talk about when we're talking about front offices in the Eastern Conference, which is why they are as bad as they are, which is why the Celtics are the NBA champs. Brad Stevens should be the executive of the year, because there's no way, if you are the Milwaukee Bucks, that you just hand over Drew Holiday. There's no way. I'm not handing over Drew Holiday. I can't. I'm not saying that I won't. I can't hand him over. There's certain guys that you can't have him unless you make me a deal that I can't refuse. To send Drew Holiday to Portland for Damian Lillard, Brad Stevens is immediately, and this is where great GMing comes in, Brad Stevens is immediately picking up the telephone and calling up. He's immediately picking up the telephone and calling up the Portland Trailblazers. Hey, what's the story with Drew? What you want for him? I got Grant Williams, or I have Malcolm Brogdon, one of the best rotation guards in the game, one of the better vets in the game, and I got one of the best big defenders in the game. And one of the best big defenders in the game. Do we have a deal? Yes, we got a deal. And Drew Holiday is now a Boston Celtic. That's a fireable offense for the Milwaukee Bucks to see Drew Holiday go from Portland, or see Drew Holiday go to Boston via Portland. That's a fireable offense for a GM. And then on top of that, you have no idea what you're doing with your coach. None. You have a coach in here who, in the process of him getting the job and trying to do a good job, what does he do? What does he end up doing? Alex Caruso is listed as 6'4". Alex Caruso, a bit of 6'6". Have you seen Alex Caruso? I've seen Alex Caruso stand up to Kenny Smith. Kenny Smith, 6'3". Alex Caruso is significantly taller than him. Significantly taller than him. But you have a coach who, this is his first year as a coach, and you already have dissension on the crew because Terry Stotts quits. Why does he quit? Because he's looking at this crew, right? He's looking at this crew and he's going, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Is that true that he doesn't know what he's doing? I'm not sure if that's true that he doesn't know what he's doing. I can't say with 100% certainty that that's true, that he does not know what he's doing. I don't know if that's true. I don't. I do not know if that's true that he doesn't know what he's doing, but I do know that they were in second place. They were in second place in the Western Conference. I do know that for a fact. Second place in the West, second place in the Eastern Conference. I'm sorry. Second place in the Eastern Conference. And in the process of them being in second place, man, you now fire your coach and you hire Doc Rivers. And now it becomes a disaster. This is the incompetence of what's going on in the Eastern Conference. The incompetence. You let Jimmy Butler walk out the front door and head to Miami. Pat Riley, you don't pick up the telephone as soon as Damian Lillard is traded from Portland to Milwaukee and Drew Holiday goes to Portland, which we know for a fact he is not putting on a Trailblazer uniform. No, he ain't. No. He is not playing for the Trailblazers. So why didn't you pick the telephone up and call and go, yo, what's going on with this kid? And what do you want for him? This is why when you guys tell me about the Eastern Conference being whack, this is another example of the Eastern Conference being whack. It is not because the Eastern Conference doesn't have the players. Like I just mentioned, in the last 5 years, we've only had 3 guys win the league MVP. 2 of them come out the East. The assist leader is in the East. The most improved player is in the East. The NBA champion is in the Eastern Conference. It's clearly players in the East. Clearly. The question is what are these front offices doing to ensure that the players that they have in the East, 1, stay there, and 2, you maximize them? Like what's going on in Oklahoma City. See what happened with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, right? With Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, what they did was they recognized that with his improvement, the timeline just got pushed up. Like, we can't screw around with this kid. We can't. We got to do everything that we can to maximize him. We got to put all the necessary pieces around him in order for him to have a chance to win. We can't hope that somebody presents a deal to us. We can't hope that maybe we'll get an opportunity. No. That's what GMing is. That's why you call up. That's exactly why you call up the Chicago Bulls and check their temperature on Alex Caruso. Because they could very well be having a fire sale. Very well. They could very well be having a fire sale, man. And with them having a fire sale, go get what's necessary. Go get what's necessary. If you do that, you hold on to 1, your best players, and 2, you give yourself an opportunity to win. And this logic of the Eastern Conference being weak goes away. But you got teams like the Washington Wizards passing on Jalen Williams for Johnny Davis. This is the incompetence that the Eastern Conference GMs have right now. If you're the New York Knicks, you trade both RJ Barrett and Quigley for OG Anunoby, who could very well walk out the front door and head west. And now you traded him for nothing. Now you got nothing for him. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So, with that being said, what's next for teams like the Dallas Mavericks? Was it a fluke what they did? Were they the ones who were fortunate enough to get a good match, to get favorable matchups, and then they just ran into a better team in the Boston Celtics? I think both of those things are true. I don't think that what they did was a fluke. I think that they got favorable matchups. I never believed in the Clippers. On any front did I believe in the Clippers. I didn't. I had no faith in the Clippers whatsoever. As soon as I saw the matchup, I told you guys they beat the Clippers in 5 games. It actually took 6, but I thought it'd be 5 games. They outs the Clippers. I thought Oklahoma City was too young. They ain't there yet. With Oklahoma City not being there yet, now they run into Minnesota, where I thought that the buck stopped. That's when I thought that they ran into a buzzsaw. Because I thought the Minnesota-Denver winner was the Western Conference champion winner. I had no idea that they would handle Minnesota like that. And the reason why they handled them like that was because Minnesota's Minnesota's offense was their biggest problem. It was not their defense. Their defense was stellar. I mean, I thought that they did a good job for the most part on I thought they did a good job in trying to handle them. The problem was their offense was insufficient. That was the biggest problem with them. So because now their offense gets exposed and they can't score, that increases Dallas's offense. Because now you guys are on the defense on the regular. You guys are regularly on the defense. So with that being said, they run into a team that's very similar to Minnesota. Very similar to Minnesota, except our offense is better. Defensively, we just as good, right? Defensively, we are just as good. Our offense is just better, much better. And because our offense is better, you can't contend with that. And they end up mopping them right out of the playoffs. And now you have the NBA champion. So what do the Dallas Mavericks need to ensure that what they did wasn't a fluke? I think that they could upgrade at the small forward spot. I'm not totally out on Derrick Jones Jr. I'm not totally out on him because I actually like him. But I do think that they can upgrade at that position. I do think that. Derek Lively comes back better. Gaffett comes back better. I feel like Irv is in a great place. Luka's good. It starts ultimately with Luka, though. Of all the guys that I feel like it starts with Luka. Of all the guys it starts with. Yeah, it definitely starts with Luka. If Luka isn't bought in, which I don't think he's bought in, and I'm not on the fence about this. If Luka isn't bought in, there's no reason for me to believe that this team could get back to where they were trying to get back to. There's no reason for me to believe that. If Luka isn't bought in, he's got to get himself in better shape. He's got to be more committed on the defensive end of the floor. He has to be. He's got to be more committed on the defensive end of the floor. And I feel like when he does that, if he does that, I think we're having a different conversation about the Mavs in terms of their opportunity to win an NBA championship. Because the West is going to get better. Memphis is going to be back. They got their whole crew coming back. They lose Steven Adams, but I feel like they're going to show up that 5 spot. I feel like they're going to show up that 5 spot in the offseason. And I feel like they move Jaren Jackson to the 4. Very much like when they had Steven Adams there and they had Jaren Jackson playing the 4, I think the exact same thing goes on, where they end up moving Jaren Jackson to the 4 and get a 5-man. So with that being said, right? With that being said, the Dallas Mavericks, it starts with Luka and what Luka is committed to doing. He's got to get himself in better shape. It's not a coincidence. It is not a coincidence that it's not a coincidence that Joker drops 35 pounds. That's not a coincidence. And when he drops 35 pounds, he goes on to win the league MVP in back-to-back seasons and has one of the greatest runs in postseason history and wins the NBA championship. That's commitment right there. It's some luck. It's some things going your way. I won't argue that. Sure. It's definitely some things going your way. That's luck too. And that's commitment. 100% that is. And as good as Luka is, that commitment, I'm not there yet with him. I'm just not there with him. I don't think that he's got that commitment. And I ain't asking for Drew Holiday. I'm not asking for Alvin Robinson. I'm not asking for Joe Dumars as a defender. I ain't asking for that. No. I don't see that. What I am asking for, though, is for you to give me the effort on defense on a consistent basis. Well, if you look at Luka's numbers, he's one of the best post defenders in the game. He's one of the better players in the game at getting deflections. Luka is Olay. Luka is a turnstile. Luka is for all intents and purposes, He is a cone. And there's no way that I can honestly watch him and say, yo, he's committed. No, he isn't. Mm-mm. No, he is not. Mm-mm. If he was, he'd get himself in better shape. And with him getting himself in better shape, he'd be a better defender because that's just effort. And then I watch him on defense and I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if he knows what he's doing defensively. So does that mean that we got to teach Luka how to play defense? If that's true, okay, fine. He's still young enough where he can get better as a defender. I feel like that. I do feel like he's still young enough where he can get better. No doubt. But if that commitment isn't there, none of this matters. And where am I going to get that commitment from with him? I'm going to get that commitment in the offseason and how he takes care of his body. That's the $1 million question. Am I going to get that from him? So moving forward, I don't think that the Dallas Mavericks have a major overhaul that's necessary. I don't think that a major overhaul is necessary. I'm looking at their crew, and I think Derek Lively's going to be better next year. I think Gafford is going to be better. Gafford's going into year 5. I think he's going to be better. PJ Washington, I think he's better. I think he comes back better. I'd like to shore up that bench. I would like to do that. And on top of shoring up that bench, I'd like to see those guys get better. Like, was Dante Exum a fluke? Dante Exum is an energy guy. But Dante Exum being an energy guy, does that mean that he can't give me if he's an energy guy, that means that he can give me consistent energy on the defensive end of the floor. And he can give me buckets. He could do that. I think he can do that. So with that being said, right? With that being said, him, Green, I actually like Josh Green. I do. I like Josh Green. Tim Hardaway, I got to find out what the story is with Tim Hardaway. Is he hurt? I mean, because this was their third leading scorer. He was their third leading scorer. So it wasn't like Tim Hardaway was just a good routine. No. He was their third leading scorer. So why, like, where was the problem with Tim Hardaway? Was he hurt? Did they not run enough action for him? Did they not get him enough shots? What was the problem with Hardaway? Because there's no way that you got a shooter like that who you don't run action for, or you run or you are getting action for, and now all of a sudden he just can't be found. Do I want to move off of Hardaway? I think that's an option. Unless you could tell me, right? Unless you could tell me that Tim Hardaway is going to be better, I'm down to move off of him. And Big Pontiac posed the question. He said, name one European player that was known for D other than a 7-footer. How about Andrew Karolinko? How about him? Andrew Karolinko was a lockdown defender. He was an awesome defender. 100% he was awesome. Marshall Lunas played defense. There's Europeans who play defense. There are Euros who play defense. That's not something that's uncommon. So that leads me to what the Lakers did today, which was hire JJ Reddick, who it's becoming more and more apparent that he was the guy right from the beginning. But they couldn't just hire him right from the beginning. They couldn't do that. And the reason why they couldn't do that was because if they did that, it would just look bad, right? If they ended up if they ended up hiring, especially considering, right, especially considering what was going on, if they ended up hiring JJ Reddick, it would just look bad. It would have looked really bad. And they couldn't risk that. Even though JJ Reddick was their guy right from the beginning. 100% he was. Definitely was their guy right from the beginning. So if he's their guy right from the beginning, right? If JJ Reddick is their guy right from the beginning, then we have to make it look like we want other guys. Like there's no way that you let Coach Dan Hurley walk out the front door. Ain't no way you do that. No. There's no way you let Coach Dan Hurley walk out the front door. You can't do that. And the fact that you let him walk out the front door tells me that you wasn't serious. Nah. Even though that offer of $70 million sound like a great offer, it just didn't make sense. Y'all wasn't serious. So now you hire JJ Reddick, which in today's NBA, very much like what Phil Jackson was. Phil Jackson wasn't an X and O guy. Like he could coach. I'm a big believer that Phil could coach. But Tex was the X and O guy. Tex was the X and O guy. In Golden State, Kenny Atkinson is a very good X and O guy. Mike Brown is an X and O guy. So with that being said, you have to in any business, you have to hire people smarter than you if you're going to be successful. You have to. There's no way that you can hire a bunch of yes people and think that you're going to be good. You have to hire people smarter than you that know what they're doing. You have to. If you don't, what's going to ultimately happen is you're going to run up on an organization that is smarter than you, and you're going to get ran over, and it's not going to be close. It's not going to be close. And the fact that the candidates for this job, for the assistant coaching job, Rondo, what up, Dubs? Rondo, Jared Dudley, Sam Cassell, guys like that. Rondo, Sam Cassell, Jared Dudley. I'm missing somebody too. But these are the candidates. And all of these guys, I feel like, one, are smarter than JJ Reddick. Two, could really help him. Because just because you're smarter than somebody does not necessarily mean that they want your help. Right? So hopefully JJ Reddick isn't stubborn enough that he doesn't see this as a power struggle. This can't be a power struggle. There's no way it could be a power struggle. We have to all be on the same page with this. Because with JJ Reddick now being hired, I don't know if you guys noticed, this is the 9th coach, right? This is the 9th coach in 10 years for the Lakers. This is the 4th coach in 5 years. Like, they have no idea what they're doing. Since they won the championship in 2020, it's been a revolving door. We go from Luke Walton to Vogel. We go from Vogel to Darvin Ham. We go from Darvin Ham to now JJ Reddick. That's 4 coaches in 5 years. 4 coaches in 5 years. 9 coaches in 10 years. They had 3 different coaches in 1 year. They're a disaster. Now, would JJ Reddick, how does JJ Reddick become successful in this? Well, he becomes successful in this with them buying into JJ Reddick, whomever he is, right from the beginning. Him commanding that respect. Remember, this is not 1988. This is not 1995. This is a players' league. They will run your ass right out of there. Nope. If you come in there with that rah-rah and kikiing, no, they'll run your ass right out of there. If you come in there with that iron fist, they'll run your ass right out of there. There has to be a balance. And remember who you're dealing with now. You're dealing with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. So you're dealing with 2 of the most polarizing figures in the game. So because you're dealing with these two dudes, you have to be very careful in how you handle this situation. Is this a situation where Casey Jones gets the head coaching job with the Celtics and lets Larry Bird and Kevin McHale and Cedric Maxwell and Robert Parrish and Danny Ainge and all of these guys know this team is going to go as you guys go? That's what this team is going to be. This team is going to be what you guys want it to be. If you want to be champions, you got to show it to me. You got to show me that you're committed to wanting to be champions. Because if you don't, it's clear that we're going to be something else. Is JJ Reddick a figurehead? Like Lady Eloise or something like that? Are these guys going to listen to him? He does have the NBA background. He doesn't have the coaching cachet, though. That's the problem. Very much like Steve Kerr. He does not have the coaching cachet. Because he doesn't have the coaching cachet, what does that mean moving forward for him? How does he get that from his crew? How does he get that from LeBron James? Because James being the leader, and we all know that James, even though he said he didn't, he has something to do with this. He definitely has something to do with this. He endorsed Coach Dan Hurley. Yes, he did. Oh, 100% he did. He endorsed him. Yep. And whom else ever they brought in. The best players got to get behind that. Particularly in today's game. The best player has to get behind it. Because if he doesn't, we're going to have this revolving door. It's going to keep revolving. That's what's going to happen. We're going to keep going in the same direction. So James and Anthony Davis are guys who have to get on board. More than anybody. They got to get on board. If they don't get on board, this thing is going to be a disaster. I feel like the talent is there. Is the philosophy there? That's what we got to figure out. That's what we have to get to the bottom of. That part right there. Is the philosophy there? Because that's the key to winning. That's why Dallas isn't where they need to be. Because Luka ain't bought in. We got to get everybody bought in. One guy being bought in, or of the 17 guys that's on this crew and the 15 guys that's on the active roster, if one guy isn't bought in, we go to pieces. Especially if my leader isn't bought in. Particularly if my leader isn't bought in. So James has to be bought in here. Anthony Davis has to be bought in here. All the rest of them dudes, they'll get in line. They will get in line if James is bought in. And he has to be, because he has something to do with this hire. Excuse me. There's no way that they didn't do this without his blessing. Hell yeah, they did. Now, I'm not buying the whole logic. Well, he's not even signed. So with him not even being signed, you think LeBron James leaving $52 million on the table? I'm going to say that one more time for the people in the back. Do you think LeBron James is leaving $52 million on the table? I'm willing to bet no. I don't think he leaving $52 million on the table. And because I don't think he leaving $52 million on the table, they went to him and said, what do you think of this guy? How do you feel about this guy? And what did he do? What did he do? He endorsed it. That's why they hired him. They didn't hire JJ Reddick in the effort that they were going to lose LeBron James. That's smoke and mirrors, what you're hearing from his agent. That is smoke and mirrors. I'm not sure that LeBron James is going to sign with the Lakers. That's smoke and mirrors. He ain't going nowhere. He'll be right back with the Lakers. I would be shocked if he left that $52 million on the table. The only way he leaves that $52 million on the table is if he signs an extension. If he signs a 3-year extension for $120 million or $130 million or $150 million, that's the only way he doesn't opt in for that money. If he leaves that money on the table, is if he's signing an extension for 3 years for way more money. He's not leaving that money. He's not leaving that money on the table and signing a 2-year extension for $70 million. No, he ain't doing that. Even though it would make the most sense, because if you figure it can open up some money so we can get some other players in here. It could do that. It could open up some money and you can get some other players in here. But James is about maximizing his earning power. And James is all about making the most that he could possibly make. He did that. He took less money in Miami because he had to at that time. He was in a tough spot. He was trying to win. He was trying to win. He was in a difficult position. So he had to do that. If he doesn't do that, right? If he does not do that, he's right back where he was when he was in Cleveland. Miami can't make any moves. They can't bring in any free agents moving forward. They can't do that. And on top of that, when they actually do win, now Miami becomes a desirable place. So now guys like Juwan Howard and Mike Miller are looking at Shane Battier. They're looking at Miami like, I'll go play down in Miami for a little bit of money. With him, yes, I'll do that. Winning has a tendency to do that. James is in a space where these big paychecks, they're running out. Even though he's still one of the better players in the game, but this is a year. When you get to this age, this is a year-to-year thing. So they're trying to maximize what James is and how many more years we got left. So now you have a guy in JJ Reddick, whom it's not a coincidence that James is attached to. And with James being attached to him, they coincidentally are interested in hiring him as the head coach. I don't think he's a puppet. I'm not gonna do that because JJ Reddick does not strike me as that type of dude. Him coaching the Lakers, that's another situation that had to make sense. Yes, that's another situation that absolutely had to make sense. If it wasn't, he wouldn't have taken the job. He could very well just stay on ABC and keep doing the finals. Because this Laker job at 4 years, I don't think that money is gonna be what the TV money is gonna be. So he could have very well just stayed on television and been Mark Jackson or been Stan Van Gundy. He could have very well done that. So with him taking his job, he's not taking his job just to be a figurehead. He's going to have some say-so. And I can tell you guys right now, throughout the season, there's going to be some feathers ruffled. Because JJ Reddick is rigid. JJ Reddick is not one of these guys that is a yes man. JJ Reddick is not one of these guys that's docile and sip. No. JJ Reddick was one of the most hated college basketball players. JJ Reddick was not popular in the NBA. There's not a lot of people who dug him. You saw him on First Take going at Stephen A. Smith, roasting the older guys. So with that being said, this thing here with JJ Reddick, it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be really interesting how they handle him. I do. I think it's going to be really interesting how they handle him, because I know for a fact. I'm not saying that maybe, possibly. I know for a fact that JJ Reddick, with him being who he is, man, this thing is going to get tricky. This thing definitely gets tricky. Yes, it does. So I will be paying close attention to it. Yes, I will. I definitely will be paying close attention to it. So we'll see. But the Boston Celtics have won the NBA championship. The Boston Celtics, for all intents and purposes, their front office, the way that they're doing things, I honestly believe that they could make a run. Barring injuries, the Celtics could realistically make a run. I'm confident in that. Yeah, I'm confident that they can make a run barring any injuries. If we have a team that comes back better, Drew Holiday, I feel like not just Drew Holiday, but Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, who's going to have surgery. He'll be ready by the time training camp opens up. With these guys, they could very well lose Derek White in the offseason, because what it's going to cost to keep Derek White might be a bit much. And if that's true, right? If that's true, I don't know, man. That part I don't know. I do think that they could do a better job in shoring up that bench, because I don't know. I don't know what the plan is moving forward with Cornette. I really dig Pritchard. I did get something put on my mind, though, and I was wondering what you guys might think of this, and that is, what if the Boston Celtics drafted Bronny James? What if the Boston Celtics took Bronny James and stashed him? Now, we live in an era where a lot of guys, whether it's a first-round pick or second-round pick, you got second-round picks who, I'll go back to Europe. I'm not playing for the San Antonio Spurs. No, I'm not. I'll go back to Europe before I do that. I am not playing for the San Antonio Spurs. I am not playing for the Portland Trailblazers. I'll go back to Europe. So if the Celtics were to draft Bronny James, what does that mean for Bronny James moving forward? Do the James family, do they say, nope, he ain't going to Boston? He's not doing that. Or do they say, this is great? Because now we have what's called a quagmire, an awkward situation. What I mean when I say that is, what happens if the Celtics end up back in the finals? They draft Bronny, and he ends up cracking the lineup where he becomes one of their rotation guys, or he's on the bench. And what happens if they end up in the finals, and you know who ends up in the finals? What happens then? I mean, I think that's great for TV. I don't think it's something that would happen. I think it would be great for TV. The storyline would be epic. Oh, it would be fantastic. James and the Lakers. James and the Lakers against the Celtics with Bronny James on the Celtic bench. Oh, that would be fantastic for TV. But would he play for the Celtics if they ended up drafting him? That's my question. Would he go there, or would his people make it clear that no? Because agents do that, and a lot of times they bluff. A lot of times all they doing is woofing. Your guy is ultimately going to go end up there. We heard Kobe Bryant say it. If the Nets would have picked him at 8, Kobe Bryant would have been in Jersey playing for the Nets. 100% that would have happened. If the Nets would have taken him, he would have been there. But they bluffed. If you take him, he's going to Europe. And the Nets weren't interested in risking that. Well, what if the Celtics end up calling James's bluff? We drafting him. We're going to draft him. And not only are we going to draft him, we're going to draft him and we're going to hold on to his rights. We're not going to stash him. Like, he's not going to be one of those guys that we put in the G League. No, we're actually going to develop him. We're going to develop him. Now, the question is do you want to get down or do you not want to get down with it? Because we're doing it. We're doing it. I think that would be great for TV. I'm not saying that it would be good. I think it would be great for TV. I think it would. I definitely think it'd be great for TV. So this offseason looks like it's going to be fantastic, man. We already got action. We already got a lot of motion, and draft night's coming up next week. I'll be really interested to see what happens with Washington. Yeah, I'll be really interested to see what happens with Washington. And I'll be interested to see what San Antonio does. Yeah, I'll be really interested to see what San Antonio does. Because I know that they need a lead guard. I think that guy's in college. I do. I think that guy is in college. And I just don't know where he is, though. I think that's the difference. I do think that San Antonio's lead guard is in college. And they've actually done a good job with drafting. I mean, they found Tony Parker. They found Ginobili. You know, guys like that. Leonard. You know, guys like that. They found those guys. And you know, I feel like Pop does a good job in evaluating talent. He is long in the tooth. We all know that. We all know that Pop is long in the tooth, and you know, I feel like his best days are behind him. His best days as a coach. I mean, Pop is almost 75 years old. Right? So, you know, a guy almost 75 years old, there isn't much else left there. So how much longer Pop gonna stick around? I don't know. That part I don't know, but I'm interested to see what they do at 4 and at 8. The Oklahoma City Thunder at 12, I love it. And the reason why I love it is because of what Sam Presti has done with this roster. And the fact that he moved on from Josh Giddey, trades Josh Giddey, right? Trades Josh Giddey to Chicago. In the process of trading Josh Giddey to Chicago, he gets to keep his picks and gets a better defender. Gets to keep his picks and get a better defender. That's not common. That is very uncommon for a GM, especially to get an on-ball defender of that caliber, and I don't have to give up any of my picks. Because remember, Oklahoma City has like 14 picks, 14 like first round, and like of those 14 picks, like 8 of them are ones, and I get to keep my ones and get Alex Caruso. That's GMing for your ass right there. That is GMing for your ass right there. Let me tell you. Yes, it is. That is GMing for your ass. And this is just another example of why, and I said this to you guys earlier in the show, this is just another example of why the Western Conference is what it is and the Eastern Conference is what it is. For that reason right there. And if this continues, Oklahoma City's trajectory is exactly where it was when they had KD and Russ and Ibaka. They're trending in the right direction. They are trending in the right direction. Really quickly, Green, why the hell would the Trailblazers do that? Why the hell would the Trailblazers give up DeAndre Ayton for Gordon Hayward and a role player? They're building around Gordon Hayward. Why the hell would they do that? There's no reason for them to do that. None whatsoever. Why the hell would they do that? That's another fireable offense. Gordon Hayward, a role player, and the number 12 pick for DeAndre Ayton? Hell no. Why the hell would we do that? Anyway. And exactly, Chicago's burning it down. I did see what Chicago did. Did you see what they did? Anyway, like I was saying, if you look at Oklahoma City's trajectory, it's very much like the trajectory that they were on when they got KD, when they drafted Russ, when they drafted James Harden, when they drafted Ibaka. The trend that they're on, they're going this way. And with them doing that, I feel like they're in a damn good place. That's just smart GM. And they had to do that because Oklahoma City, very much like Portland, very much like New Orleans, you're not bagging free agents. There's not a big time free agent that's coming to San Antonio. Unless you have something that's eye-popping. Otherwise, nah, that's not happening. What you have to do is you got a GM. You got to get it right in the draft. And you got to get it right with trades. You have to. I'm not saying that you should, especially when you're in a market like that, you have to get it right. You have to. If you don't, you can bet that this sets you back. Oh, 100% it sets you back. Years. So, like with that being said, I like the direction that Oklahoma City's going in. And I will keep you guys posted. Yes, I will. But it's about that time for me. I got to shake the spot. It was good to see you guys tonight. This offseason looks like it's going to be great. We got action. The draft is coming up. I will be back soon to talk about the draft. to talk more about free agency and all of that good stuff. And I will be back here to talk about all of that good stuff soon. But it was good to see you guys tonight. And I will see you guys soon. But until then, put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother. When last time you talked to your mother? Call your mother. I will see you guys soon. But until then, take it light. But take it. It was good to see you guys tonight, no doubt. Good to see you.